Let's go over the Star Wars franchise when it comes to the sequel trilogy, the original one by George Lucas. This is Mike Zero here. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, as you all know, these past couple of days, we've been learning a whole lot more about George Lucas's original ideas and treatments, story treatments of the original episodes 7, 8, and 9, the sequel trilogy. Now, the one that we know today under Disney, Lucasfilm, etc. features new characters such as Rey, Finn, Kylo, Poe Dameron, etc., going up against the First Order. Now, that is indeed the new conflict, and an interesting thing that I do want to bring up, the sequel trilogy, what's the actual name of this war? Did they ever name the actual name of this war in the sequel trilogy? I haven't really heard about that, but looking at all of the different things that we have learned about George Lucas's original story treatments and ideas for Star Wars episodes 7, 8, and 9, one of which actually had more Luke and Han Solo moments in his original sequel trilogy. Now, this is something that I honestly wished that we actually got to see in episode 7. In fact, Mark Hamill kept on talking about it, how he really felt that it was necessary to have both Luke and Han at least have a reunion, or at the very least, Mark Hamill actually gave out his idea where both Luke Skywalker and Leia had a little reunion. They sensed the danger between Han Solo and Kylo Ren, and they rushed to his aid, and they witness his death. Though they don't actually get to have a reunion per se, they actually got to see him before his final moments. And that was Mark Hamill's idea of all three characters actually reuniting. Now, looking at the fact that we didn't get to have Han Solo and Luke Skywalker reunite in the Star Wars sequel trilogy, a lot of people didn't like that, and in fact, that's what made the Han Solo death so, kind of like controversial, because not a lot of people really agree that Han Solo should have died in episode 7. A lot of people agree that there should have been more scenes between both Kylo and Han to build up that relationship and then possibly kill him off in the future to have a more emotional impact. But looking past all of this, we did have more Luke and Leia moments in the original sequel trilogy. In fact, it actually all ended with Luke Skywalker training Leia before his death. Now, we talked about his death a very long time ago, where George Lucas explained, or I should say Mark Hamill explained that George Lucas went over this, that even in the original sequel trilogy, Luke Skywalker would have died at the very end of episode 9, but it was in a complete different way. Now, we don't know the specifics about that, but we do know that he did indeed train Leia to become a Jedi. Now, this sequel trilogy actually didn't even have the First Order. This wasn't even a concept, and the treatments actually disregarded the EU, the Expanded Universe, also now known as Legends material. Now, his trilogy focused on kids. Now, this is something that J.J. Abrams and Disney didn't really actually like, so they disregarded all of that. In case you guys didn't know, in the very beginning, in the early stages of The Force Awakens, they were using treatments of George Lucas, and they eventually totally just disregarded it because they wanted to do something new and for a next generation that would cater to the fans. They knew that a lot of the fans wouldn't necessarily want Star Wars movies where it was primarily focused just on kids. Do you guys agree or disagree with that? And the original writer of The Force Awakens, Michael Arndt, actually used Lucas story treatments, one of which even had Rey diving into the waters and seeking out the remaining pieces of the Death Star too. So, very interesting little pieces and ideas that were going to be embedded in the original sequel trilogy. Now, some of the things actually really do seem a whole lot better than what we received under Disney, such as, of course, Luke Skywalker training Leia to become a Jedi, and the fact that there were going to be more Luke and Han moments. And I think that one of my most favorite pieces of all is, of course, the fact that it was going to really, focus on the whole entire, offspring of both Luke, Han, and Leia, etc. It was going to be focused on the children. Now, Would I actually have liked a whole entire trilogy just catered to kids? Not necessarily. I mean, they could have at least, like, you know, just kind of thrown it in there for, like, a little part of it, but I still think that it should have actually had Luke Skywalker's son involved in the sequel trilogy under the Disney canon. Because, you know, it's kind of, like, heartbreaking to know that Luke never had a child, as far as we know right now, right? Luke never had a child. Was he ever married? It seems no, because if you look at the novelization, he thinks about the life that he never had. He actually thinks back to Tatooine with a wife of his own, looking out to the binary sunset, and that's something that he never got to live. So, the fact that Luke never had a son, and in the EU, he actually did, which is, of course, Ben Solo. That's exactly how they got the name of Ben Solo, because in the EU, it was Ben Skywalker. Now, sure, I think that the exact name of Ben Solo in the sequel trilogy that we have, I believe that's inspired from Ben Kenobi. I think that Luke Skywalker told Leia or Han to hand over Kenobi's name to, you know, Ben Solo. But anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.